Welcome to Violin Adventures number 126. We finish up our 1800s cello repair and the owner plays it for us. We have an emergency cello repair. We have here a very lovely French cello. This belongs to a professional cellist. Cello case gave way. One of those expensive cello cases, the handle broke off, and so his cello went tumbling down. It caused movement in the neck. So what we're going to have to do is open up this cello, make sure the blocks are solid. We need to do it right away. This is an emergency because he's in the middle of his concerts. So there you can see this is a real label, and here it's signed by the maker. These are more signs that you'll find in a instrument, and here he even dated it 1889. So we know this is a sincere cello with the correct label on it. So we have this cracking rib here, and the reason is on this side. You can see where there was wood. It was wood to wood here, but there's patches where there was no contact. And there was also wood left over from an earlier repair. So this area was not supported properly. we've got a new block fit that's just a little heftier and hopefully won't move so much. And then we also cut out a little place for this support that was already on here. We're going Okay, it's time to get the neck back on, so we'll see how long it takes. Old violin that needs a lot of work. We're going to open up this German violin and see what's going on on the inside. So some of the top is easy to open and some of it is very hard. So we're wondering what kind of glue did they use. There it is. Look at that. Oh. Here the upper block is completely loose. Okay, I'll bring you up close so you can see what's going on in here. Okay, here's the back. It's pretty straightforward. We'll need to check the thicknesses. This could be super thick or not. Here's the upper block. So we need to just put a new one in there. You can see the glue that's caked all the way around, which means that all these seams have opened up over time and then they've been re-glued. The good thing is it looks like it's the correct glue, but we need to get all that glue off. The lower block has the grain going in the wrong direction. So we'll need to take this out and block in there that has the grain going correctly. Here's the top. Look at this. So here's a sound post patch. We'll need to take that out because it looks like it wasn't fit real well. And then all these strips need to come out. At least they have the idea. Probably trying to keep the vibrations going, but the wood is not cut correctly either. So it's not going to carry the vibrations. And then you can see all the glue on this. So we need to take all of this off. And of course we'll take this base bar out. You can see all the glue around the base bar, which probably signifies it's not a good fit either. So we want to free this violin of all these encumberments. You can see here the base bar, the wood grain again is not in the right direction. While we wait for our cellos to dry, either glue or varnish, we can work a little bit on this very old violin. On the inside, it's not cleaned out completely. I have to be very careful because this section is very thin, although it's not bad. The middle section has got enough thickness that we can take this down quite a bit. But the tone, there's just too many rattles in there to get any tone. So I'm going to start gluing some of the open cracks shut. On this one crack right here, the cleat is holding the crack from closing. So we're going to take that cleat off. And now we have an ancient cello from the 1700s, the early 1700s, a Galliano. This is a very old cello, 1735. Here's the inside of our early 1700s cello. And here is the top. Look at all those cleats. This poor cello, it needs a lot of help. So we're going to start on this next week. We're reading in Violins and Violinists by Franz Farga, and we are on the chapter entitled The French Trio. We just covered Kreutzer, and now we're going to cover Pierre Rodet. Like Kreutzer, Pierre Rodet, born in 1774, belongs to France's classic violinists. As a boy, he studied for a few years with Professor Pfeffel, and at 14 became Viotti's pupil in Paris. Viotti instructed him with great devotion for 2 years, and at 16 Rodet played Viotti's Concerto No. 13 with such success that his teacher put him into the orchestra. Rodet, however, wanted to travel. He went to Holland in 1794, then to Germany, and was particularly successful in Berlin, where he was offered the post of Royal Concertmaster. In London, however, he was not received with the same enthusiasm, and so he returned to Paris, but not for long. We find him again in Madrid, where he made friends with Boccherini, for whose chamber music he had a great admiration. A second tour to Berlin, this time in the company of Boieldieu, was even more successful than the first. He was put on the same plane as Viotti, and it was said that he played with even more feeling and tenderness than the Italian master. Spohr, too, saw in Rodet the personification of the ideal violinist. He then undertook a tour of Russia, which turned into a veritable triumphal march. Enthusiasm in St. Petersburg was boundless. Tsar Alexander I appointed him soloist of the court band at a salary of 6,000 roubles. Rodet gave numerous concerts, all of them crowded, and many highly paid private lessons. Although the climate disagreed with him, he stayed 5 years in Russia. When he returned to Paris, however, the public was disappointed. The pieces he had composed in Russia were found mediocre, and his playing had become unsteady. To his grief, one of his and Kreutzer's pupils, Charles Philippe Lafont, was now the darling of Paris. It is highly probable that Rodet had grown careless in Russia, where he had had no serious rival. He seems to have neglected his daily exercises, which are so vital to every violinist who wants to keep in tip-top form. He therefore decided to retire to the south of France for a while. There he practiced day in and day out. In 1811, he began to tour Europe again, visiting Switzerland, southern Germany, and Vienna. But his successes were not what they had been. However, Beethoven invited him to play his G major sonata for violin and piano, opus 96, for the first time. This he did at a soirée at the Archduke Rudolph as his accompanist. But Beethoven was by no means satisfied with Rodet's performance of the sonata. Spohr, who had heard him in Vienna in 1813, writes in his autobiography, "I was greatly looking forward to Rodet's performance. 10 years ago in Brunswick he had been my ideal violinist, but I found him retrograde even after the first solo. cold and affected. I missed his previous on surmounting difficulties. His E major variations proved to me that he had lost his previous self-confidence. He had simplified for himself the more complicated passages, yet even so he appeared timid and unsure. The audience was very cool. Spohr met Rodet and told him his opinion to his face. One day he played Rodet's own G major variations at a soirée in Rodet's presence, exactly as the composer had played them himself in his heyday. The listeners applauded enthusiastically, and Rodet found himself compelled to do so too, but he was deeply hurt by this exposure. Rodet knew perfectly well, of course, that his art was on the downgrade, and this made him still more discouraged. He moved to a little farm, but his longing for the old triumphant days never ceased. Prematurely aged, he let himself be persuaded to play again in Paris in 1828. It was a complete failure. His playing was considered stiff and lifeless. He should never have returned to the concert platform. Soon afterwards, he had a stroke from which he never recovered. On the 25th of November, 1830, he died in the south of France, a bitter and disappointed man. One should not forget, however, that in spite of the pathetic end to his career, Pierre Rodet was a brilliant representative of the French school. Of his 13 violin concertos, the 7th in A minor and the 11th in D minor have become particularly popular, and his 24 caprices are a great achievement. They are a happy supplement to Kreutzer's Etudes and bristle with technical intricacies. It has become an axiomatic saying that anyone who can play these caprices perfectly may be called a great violinist. Rodet's many variation pieces are also very attractive, his air in G major still being a favorite recital item. And that's the end. Next we're going to cover, the next chapter is on Paganini. Freddie wants to chat.
Hi, I Freddie. And I was looking through the house and I found my friend Mr. Thomas Pinch, and he was putting up crown molding in one of the rooms. Wow! Well, don't forget to send me your projects, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
Hebrew Minute. V'ani yada'ati go'ali chai v'acharon al afar yakum. And I know, this is really positive, and I know that my Redeemer lives, and at the latter time, or at the end, upon the earth he shall stand. If you know where this is found, please leave it in the comments below. Well, here it is, Friday afternoon, and it's about 50 to 60 degrees out here. Here inside the shop, we have a lot going on. We have about 12 or 13 projects, so let's start. Over here, we've got about 6 rehairs and a fingerboard that needs to be fixed. We have our new violin that is just taking a vacation at this point. And here we have our ancient violin, and I would date this probably early 1800s or even late 1700s, but at least 1800s. And we've got this cleaned up a little bit. We've got to do some more cleaning and closing. We've closed this crack. We still need to close this crack. Here is a cello with a nice crack right here, so we need to get that closed up. Over here is an emergency repair, and so we've reset the neck with a new block, and we'll finish this up. Here's the professor's cello. He's got all his ribs on. And here we come to a major repair. This is a Galliano from the 1700s, and you can see the top here. This is made from 4 pieces of wood from an old church base from the 1700s, and they cut it down to make it into a cello. So this, and then here's the scroll, which is broken off. Well, you can see inside where they've added wood just to make it into a cello. Here's our top. Look at all those cleats on there. We're going to take all of that off. We've got a huge patch here that is way too thick. That comes off along with the bass bar. We're going to do major repairs on this 1700s Galliano cello. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your wonderful comments and your thumbs up. And thank you to the new subscribers. And until next time, bye.